4th grade scientist. Miss Cross is here for another science lesson, and today we're going to be doing our Tinker Time activity for the week. And if you remember from last week, Tinker Time is where you get to kind of fiddle with things, manipulate things, touch things, move them around, and keep growing that curiosity about our science content. So today I'm going to tell you what you're going to do, and I'm going to give you an example so that you can do it on your own, okay? Now, first thing is you're going to have a document on your e-class, which is going to have a paper like this, and then in front of that paper, you're going to have some sets of picture cards. Now, these cards hopefully look a little bit familiar from last week. These are the same things we looked at last week in our phenomenon, okay? So, best thing you can do is to print these out for your work today. Now, if you cannot print them out, it is not a big deal. By the way, there's also some arrows. So you've got two sets of cards, arrows, and then this page, which is your graphic organizer. So if you can print these out, and you would cut the cards out, there's two sets and your arrows, and then you would glue this into your journal like I have. That's the best thing you could do. Now, if you cannot print at home, no big deal. What I would suggest doing is drawing this organizer in your journal, just like we did last week when we did the fallen tree article, and some of us drew that into our graphic organizer into our journal. So that would work as well. And then what I would suggest, if you cannot print these pictures, is to either draw the picture cards or just write the words, okay? So you could write the labels of all these things, and that would work too. So now I'm going to move these all for just a second, and we're going to look back at our phenomenon from yesterday. And I know this is kind of tiny the way you're looking at it right now, but if you need to see it bigger, you can go back to yesterday's slides or yesterday's video. But we looked at this phenomenon yesterday, and we thought a lot about these pictures, the arrows, kind of how these things might be connected. And I would like you to kind of think about this before you get started today, okay? Because what you're going to be thinking about is how energy flows between organisms in an ecosystem. How does energy move from one thing to another? And those things we learned last week, producer, consumer, and decomposer, are really important in this process. So I know we're just kind of trying to start looking at food chains, which is what this is. So you're just going to kind of do some thinking today about how you think energy is transferred. And I'm going to use this as a starting point. And we wondered yesterday about the red arrows and the green arrows. But what I'm noticing here when I really think about this is I have these green plants up here, which we learned last week are our producers. And from that, I see these red arrows that go from animal to animal. And then back here, this is earthworms and mushrooms. So that one might be a little bit more confusing, but really focus on the producer and then the arrows heading out from the producer. Okay? So you are going to try to put together some little food chains kind of like this today on your own. So I'm going to keep my graphic organizer here. Now, if I look at this, I see flow of energy. Oops. Now I see flow of energy. I see the start of energy, where it goes next, where it goes next, where it goes next, and where it goes last, okay? So you could have 3 cards in your chain. You could have more than that, okay? And there's different ways you can do this. And there's more than one right answer. So I'm going to start with the kind of forest cards, and I'm going to lay them out up here just so I can see them all. Now, I remember that the phenomenon we looked at yesterday started with a green plant, okay? And when I look at all of these organisms, I only see one thing that's a green plant. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to need to start with this. I'm thinking that this is where my energy is going to start moving from this producer into my consumer. So I'm going to put that first. Then I'm going to take one of my arrows, because I think that the energy moves from the grass to something else. So let's see. What if the deer ate the grass? deers can eat grass. But then I think if I put an arrow here, where would the energy go from the grass to the deer to what? So I'm looking at what I have left. I have a frog, a grasshopper, a coyote, a rabbit, a snake, and a hawk. And I don't really know if any of those things eat deer. Maybe a coyote could eat a baby deer. Maybe a snake could eat a deer. But I don't know. I'm thinking maybe that shouldn't go second. So I'm going to take that out for a second. What else could maybe eat grass? I bet this grasshopper could eat grass. Okay, so now I have energy going from the grass to the grasshopper. What could a grasshopper be eaten by? What about this frog? Now, I'm going to put him down here. Actually, I bet I could do it this way. Oops, you guys can't see that. Let's see. Grass. Here, I might kind of scooch them together a little bit closer to see if we can see them. Grasshopper, frog. Okay. So now, I'm going to do my arrow going down just so we can maybe see a little bit more in the picture. What could come next? What could eat the frog? I bet a snake could eat a frog. So I'm going to put my snake right there. And then I think, what could eat the snake? And I'm pretty sure I have seen pictures of birds like hawks with snakes kind of hanging from their mouth. So I'm going to do that. Okay, now, I can't really think that any of these other three things would eat a hawk, but this looks like a pretty good food chain here. So I have grass, which is eaten by a grasshopper, which is eaten by a frog, which is eaten by a snake, which is eaten by a hawk. So this, I think, is a pretty good way for energy to flow from producer through these different consumers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my graphic organizer and I'm going to record my thinking on round one. Okay? So I'm going to swap these so you can see how I do my graphic organizer. Okay, so for round one, I started with grass. And then I'm going to draw an arrow. And remember, the arrows go in the direction that the energy is transferring. Okay, so the energy goes from the grass to the grasshopper. And then it goes to a frog because the frog is eating the grasshopper and getting energy from the grasshopper. Then the frog is eaten by the snake. And then the snake is eaten by the hawk. Now, see how this kind of came out the edge of my graphic organizer? That's okay. So I'm going to just double check that I have the same amount of organisms. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I think that looks like a really good one. So I'm going to stack these back up. I'm going to stack my arrows back up. And I'm going to try another one. Now, I am not going to show you the next one. I want you to try and do it yourself. So this is my advice, okay? From this set of cards, remember, this is the only green plant we have. So I'm going to start my next one with this same green grass, but I'm going to put my animals in a different order. Because remember, I didn't use the rabbit or the coyote or the deer in that example. So I might do another one and try to use those. Now, there are lots of different possibilities, okay? There are lots of different ways you can do it. So, when I notice that there are 4 rounds, I would do 2 with this set of cards, and then I would get this set of cards. And the other one is the underwater organisms, and I'm going to give you a little hint. When I look through these cards, I again only see one green plant, and that is seaweed. So I'm probably going to say on that one that the seaweed is the start of the energy. So have fun working with your cards, changing them around. Remember, if you need to just write these words out if you can't print, that is fine. Just be sure that at the end of your work today, you have 4 examples of how energy flows in different ecosystems. All right, guys, I hope you have a great time with today's Tinker Time, and we will do more science tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.